We're live.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back. We are in our final hour of the BirthWorker Evolution Society Summit Online Summer 2020.
For today.
Oh, for today. We have a whole nother set of planning for programming for tomorrow. Um, and our final guests, I'm so honored to have her here. This is such a special way, as far as I'm concerned, to end today. I was a teen mother, and there's a lot of stigma around that. And so our guest today, Yuvelca Reyes, her mama was on earlier, doula on the grow. So we can expect an amazing hour from this young lady. She's got an amazing story. She is the power warrior woman and mother to a preemie, and she's got some wisdom to drop on us. Hey, Yuvelca, welcome.
Hi. I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about me first.
Yeah.
So, right now I'm 20, but when I had my first baby, who's now 15 months, I was 18. So, I was pretty young, still am pretty young, but my story is quite interesting, and I thought I would share it just because, like the title of my topic, Mother's Power and Influence, no matter how young or old you are, sometimes you just kind of like forget how much power and influence you really have over your own body and, of course, your kids. So I went into labor early, and I was 4 weeks early and maybe some days. I don't remember how many days. And it was the day after my baby shower. So the stigma of a young mom started right then and there. As soon as we walked into the hospital, nobody believed that I was in labor. So I was sitting for a good like 6 hours doing absolutely nothing while they were running all these tests about like contractions and ultrasounds and water and all these things. And I knew the whole time over here telling people like, no, really, I think I'm having contractions, but I didn't actually end up seeing the doctor until 6 hours after me actually going to the hospital. And when I saw the doctor, of course, she was like, okay, it's go time. Like, you're having this baby, you're 6 centimeters dilated. So I called my mom, who you met earlier, who's a doula. And she's like coming from PA. I'm in upstate New York. She's trying to like get over there as fast as she can. And she ends up making it just literally just on time, like 2 minutes before Anaya, my daughter, actually came. But during my birthing experience without my mom was very, very different than with her there. Not even as my mom, but as a doula. Her information that she had, I had my boyfriend there, which was Anaya's dad, and he was doing the best he could. Nobody was really talking to him, but he was being supportive and saying the things he needed to say. But I noticed that none of the nurses or the doctor really told me what was actually happening. And for me, being a first time mom, a young first time mom, I didn't have any idea what was happening either. I had like basics, but I felt that if they had told me more of what was actually going on, like, okay, you're gonna push, we can see her head, you things like that, I would have had a different type of experience. Whereas all they were telling me was one more, all you have is one more. And I'm like, you've been telling me that since the beginning. I know I don't have one more. Like, these people are lying to me. And it was just like kind of like defeating in a sense, because I just felt like, how am I going to do this? It's such like a strong energy that happens when you're giving birth, and to go through it with nobody really telling you what's happening, it's just like, okay, can I do it? Like, maybe I can't do it. I was ready to give up. I really was. I was saying, I can't do it. Just give me a C-section. I don't know. I can't. And then my mom rushes in. She's like, oh my gosh, I can see her head. And in that moment, I'm like, you can? You can see her head? Like, good. That means, like, I probably do only have one more push. And she said to me, and this is what really really did it was she was like, okay, I can see her head. You're going to feel the ring of fire. And that's where all your energy comes from. So you have to give it one last push with everything you have. If you don't do that, then that's your energy is gone. You need to just give it everything you've got. So I looked at her and I was like, okay. And I did. And Anaya came and all was well. So that was something I felt was important just because, I'm not a doula, but my mother is. And I feel like just having her there or anybody who could have been there to say, like, this is what's happening. I see her head. You have this ring of fire that you're going to feel. This is your energy. This is what you need to do. Instead of just saying, you let us know when you're ready. It's just a push, just one more push. That's all it is. Like, it really, really actually made the experience, gave me my power. I didn't even see her as my mom in that moment. It was just like, all right, you know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm trusting you with this. So
No,
that's
she
the
had your
first.
back and you knew it. You knew it.
Yeah, yeah, and
The
that's like
woman
the
came before
first.
you. And the coolest part is that she carried Anaya's little eggs in her belly when you were 4 months old in her belly.
Oh yeah, so cool, the generational thing that's going on here. But that was the first segment I felt of my story that I should share, just because, like I said, the absence of somebody who isn't coming in as, okay, we just want to, get this baby out. This is the medical procedure. This is your contractions. This is what you're supposed to do. Somebody who's like, okay, no, this is me and you, eye contact, calm down. This is what you got to do. And I really didn't think I could do it, and then I did, and I was so surprised. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I did it!" And for a 4 pound, 12 ounce baby, let me tell you, I did not know the difference because I was like, "All that for this?" Like, she was so little, and it was. And another thing I noticed, they did not offer Shane or even ask Shane if he wanted to cut. That's my boyfriend, her father, if he wanted to cut the umbilical cord, which was something I know that they usually do, but I feel like it was all kind of rushed. I mean, I kind of wasn't all there anyway. I mean, I didn't have any epidural or anything, so I was kind of out of it. But to me, it felt like the whole thing was just kind of like, okay, baby out, cut. Here's your baby. Okay, bye. Like, that's what it felt like to me. They handed me to her for what felt, or handed her to me for what felt like 5 seconds, not even. I mean, it could have been longer, but that's what it felt like to me. And then they took her and they did all the cleanup and whatever they did. And I remember they were telling me, or Shane was telling me, because he came back, came back. Oh, she's doing great. Her oxygen levels are staying at 99. And then another part that I feel is very important was the shift. So I was like, okay, everything's okay. I can relax, getting stitches, everything's all good. And he comes back and he's still telling me everything's a-okay. And we get the pediatrician doctor that they had, not the one who delivered her, the one they had on call there. And he comes in, and the way he delivered this message, I felt was done so poorly, especially to both of us being young parents, first time parents. Basically, what we both got from what this doctor told us was your baby's gonna die. That's basically how he delivered. He said something along the lines of, "Okay, well, her oxygen levels are not doing good. She's not breathing properly, and we're gonna need to put her in the NICU." And yeah, and then he left. And so we're just left with that, not by verbatim, but he didn't really go into much detail. He basically told us she's not breathing properly. We're gonna need to send her to the NICU. You can't go back in and see her until we're done. And I haven't even seen her yet after they took her from me. He's the one who was with her. So I was just like, excuse me? Like, what do you mean? So it was a very emotional moment at first between the both of us. And I am so happy I had Paul there, my mom's fiance, because he went with Shane and he's very grounded. Shane and me were very emotional, like what's happening, what's going on, and he was kind of like, okay, tell me what's happening. And Shane allowed him to hear the information that one of the doctors told them when they left the room. And he came back and he kind of explained, like, okay, it's not that she's not breathing. It's just that she is not retaining oxygen the way that she should be. So they explained it kind of like a balloon. When you first blow it, you have to kind of like stretch it out and so it can fill up with air.
Well,
They compared those.
she was preemie and she had to get used to taking her breaths, you know?
Yeah, and they took her away from me, and I'm telling you, she
So, but
came
now
out, it
that
was like,
difference between Paul explaining to you versus like a doctor telling you, okay, your baby, you know, Paul doulaed you in that moment
yeah,
through that
pretty
process,
much,
right?
yeah.
You know, look, you know, because, you know, mommy said it today too, you know, he's very grounded, you know, so he takes in information and he takes the time, you know, the time to process. And it's so important to have our people, the people that are invested us. And that difference between that doctor delivery and Paul's delivery was all the difference.
Yeah,
So that you could process and actually catch your breath,
and say,
not having,
okay, it's
not
not
having seen
that.
the baby yet.
Exactly, exactly. Yes. And he explained it better to me, at least. Shane calmed down slightly, but he was still full of emotions. And since I was like, okay, I've never seen him like this ever. He's always a serious, like, macho man, and he's a mess. So somebody needs to like pull it together and be like, okay. So I was like, I guess that's got to be me. And afterwards, the doctor who delivered her came in. This must have been like maybe 30 minutes after stitches, maybe like 45 minutes after delivery. And she was telling me, okay, so we're going to need to transfer Anaya, or they didn't say her name, but your baby, because we don't have the equipment here to, we don't feel like we can keep her here for as long as she needs to be. So we're going to transfer her to another hospital. This hospital must have, it was Valhalla. So from where we were, it must have been like an hour or some change away. And she was like, but you're going to stay here. And for the 2 days that, you know, we're going to make sure your bowel movements are okay and everything like that. You're going to stay here. And then when you're ready to leave, we will transfer you over to the hospital where your baby is. And I was just like she, as soon as she said, you're going to stay, I was just, I didn't hear anything else after that. I just looked at my mom like, it's about to go down. And my mom was just like, like, she knew it was coming. I was like, okay, well, I know that I have the right to refuse your medical treatment and discharge myself. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to ride with her in the ambulance to the hospital. And everyone was kind of just like, huh? Like, what? They were looking at my mom. They were like, Mom, you're the voice of reason here. And my mom was just like,
She
she's
grow,
18. Like, she can
grow.
make her own decisions. I don't know what you want me to say. And that's exactly what happened. I'm sure everybody thought I was crazy. In the NICU where she was, I was known as the mom who discharged herself 30 minutes after giving birth. I had a reputation over there. But another bit I wanted to share, that one little portion, just because I'm sure lots of people may not even think about their right to tell a doctor no. You absolutely have that right as a mother of your child, as the owner of your body. You can say no to people who think that they're more entitled than you are because they have a degree or whatever the case may be. So even if I wanted to, I could have told her, no, I don't want her to go to the hospital. I want her with me right now. I could have done that, but I was like, okay, let me make sure she's healthy before I go and do anything like that. But that's part of mother's power and influence. You have the power to stand up for yourself, and if you don't agree with something, no matter how young or old or naive somebody may think you are, you can say no. It's that simple. Um, so transitioning to Anaya being in the hospital, that was tough. She didn't stay for as long as they thought she was going to stay because, like I said, she was. 6 weeks early. So they try to keep them about that time, but she was progressing slowly every day. So she ended up getting out in 2 weeks and a day, which thank God for that, because I was losing my mind every day, calling my mom
That
like,
was because you fought, though. You fought to get that baby milk. You had to do a
oh yeah,
lot of things. And again, this is about being with your baby. And this young lady, she gonna tell us, but she fought to get her baby that milk. They're not
I
getting my baby formula. Go ahead, mama.
I fought for so much. I felt like a lot of some of the nurses, as you know, they switched shifts and things. Some of the nurses that were caring for her were I liked them a lot. They were kind of like, you're the mom. If you want to change her, you can change her. We just got to do this. And you can be here as long as you want. That type of thing. And other people, it kind of felt like I was bothering them, but I didn't really care because my baby's there. So um, we stood in the hospital, like in the NICU portion. They had these rooms we could stay in for one night, and then I slept in the waiting room, and Shane went to work, but I was there every day. It took a lot of people basically almost pulling me out the hospital just to get me to go home and sleep for an hour, because like I said, 30 minutes, 45 minutes after stitches and birth and everything, I went straight there and I never left. I barely slept. I was just with her. They said I could be with her till 4 o'clock in the morning if I wanted to. So I was there. And I wasn't really eating. I was, but not really. It wasn't really drinking any water, maybe sips here and there, but I wasn't doing the self care that I probably should have, which is another part that my mom comes in, doula mom, comes in when she comes and visits, and she's like, okay, we're gonna brush your hair, and I got this stuff for you, and make sure that you're doing this. And she really took over all of the stuff that was supposed to happen. The 2 days I was being monitored in the hospital, my mom really did a great job. Like, all right, I this is what I know, and this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do this for you because I know you got Anaya, so I got you. And that's something I'm grateful for there as well. But a lot of things, between, we had a, I think she was a family psychologist or some type of social worker in the hospital who was trying to evaluate me as a mom, because like I said, I wasn't eating or sleeping or anything. So it kind of felt like she was trying to like prove me unfit to be a mom, the way she was speaking to me and asking me these questions. And I was like, is this because like I'm a young mom? I don't understand. Like, nobody else I saw in the NICU had these special one-on-one visits with her that she would call me in, and I was just like, okay, well, that was one thing. Another thing was just the way people spoke to me for Anaya. Like, as Mary Day said, I had to fight to give her breast milk. Would you believe? I was overproducing breast milk in the beginning, um, and so I had a whole bunch of freezer bags I was giving to them every day. And once I decided, after, like, I think the first week, that I could go home for a few hours and come back and it would be okay, I could leave her for a little while. I was home, and they had let me know that they were on their last bag of breast milk, and they probably had one or two more feedings, and then they were going to have to give her formula. And at first, I was like, okay, I will come bring in breast milk, whatever the case may be. And I noticed they ended up giving her one feeding out of her whole hospital stay of formula, one feeding. And the difference was crazy. She instantly, the next day, had jaundice and wasn't pooping right, and just, okay, now she needed to be under these lights and all this stuff. And I really feel like it was just related to the fact that she just had this formula instead of breast milk this one time. Like, I really truly believe that. I also believe that me being there with her every day, as I went to Wapia's class with my mom,
Skin with your
and yes, every problem that not even just preemies, but newborn babies with complications face, like the oxygen levels,
heart
um,
rate,
heart rate,
temperature.
yes, everything can not be cured, but helped at
Regulated
least.
by mom.
Yes, with mom being there. Even dad too, because dad had some skin to
Yep,
skin contact too. But
absolutely.
with mom, like the skin to skin, the breathe, I just noticed the oxygen levels, everything with her, I feel like was because I was there as much as I possibly could be. And I was breastfeeding. I had to fight for that too, because some of the nurses were like, we don't know if she's getting enough food from you breastfeeding her. We're going to need to monitor it through a bottle. So you're going to have to pump. And I was like, no, I was told that I could try to breastfeed her if she would latch. So she latched, and I'm going to breastfeed her, and I'm going to let you know when I feel like she's full. And they were like, okay, but if this happens and her oxygen levels go down, or she doesn't poop again, or whatever the case may be, we're going to have to take that away, that privilege away. And I'm like, privilege? What do you mean privilege? Like, so that was one of the nurses that had told me that. And of course, she latched on. She drank fine. She was fine. The only problem she had was when she was on formula, that one feeding that she had. What Mary Day said about me fighting to give her the breast milk, that was a true story too, because again, I was home and they told me again, we're running low on breast milk. And I said, do not give her formula. I will come before her next feeding time because I had it all mapped out. This is every time she eats, every time she sleeps, every time they did everything. I will bring her breast milk and I want you to wait. And she kind of gave me a problem. Like, and this wasn't over the phone either. This was in person when I told her this. When I went in, she was like, well, we're going to have to give her formula if you're not in time bringing the breast milk because we can't just not feed her. And I was like, oh, okay. And I went to the head RNA for the NICU. They did rounds in the morning, so I was familiar with her. She's the one who tells all the nurses what to do, pretty much. The plan, she maps it out. And I went to her and I said, I specifically told this lady not to give her formula, and she told me that she's going to do it anyway if I'm not in time. I would like for you to wait until I bring more breast milk back. And she was like, oh, no problem. I'll make sure myself she doesn't get any formula. You bring the breast milk. And I didn't have any lip from that nurse any other time I saw her. She was actually the nicest person in the world after that. Another experience I had. Go
What's
ahead.
crazy about that though, so here you are overproducing milk. So it's not even like you had to establish a supply. Okay. You had actually, so they don't see those bags going empty. Okay. Um, and then, so the thing with preemies, right? So preemies, unless they're very, very premature, which that's a stage where you can't actually handle them because their skin is very fragile. One of the best things for preemies is being with their mother, right? And they say that little ones don't have the ability to suck, but the more that they're with their mother, they get these abilities in. So Anaya was 6 weeks early. So what is that? So 34 weeks?
Yep.
So she was like early preterm, technically,
Yeah.
and so, but her lungs were good. I mean, aside from getting started, okay, we got to jumpstart these babies a little bit, jumpstart these lungs. Um, she was in good shape. And the biggest
Yeah.
factor in her getting out of that hospital in 2 weeks and one day, you said, was that she was with you.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of things that they say. They, who's they? My mom likes to say. When I say they say, she's like, who's they? That I found to be not necessarily 100% true. The people at the hospital like to instill like this kind of fear when they deliver their messages instead of just remembering like, okay, I know you deal with like 90 parents and 90 preemie babies a day, but it's still a preemie baby for that parent. Like the way that you speak matters. Just because I'm 18 doesn't mean that that makes me any less qualified to be spoken to correctly, you know? Like, if I was a 35-year-old mom with 3 kids, would you talk to me that way? Probably not, you know? Like, it was a battle. They gave me problems holding her a lot of the time too. I had to fight for that. I had to fight for changing her with some nurses, not all, but some gave me a problem. I was so used to like their schedule of doing things that I would just walk in, change her if I felt like she needed to be changed. I could take her out and hold her when I wanted to, and some of the nurses allowed that. But some of them I had to fight for that. There was a time I walked in and I noticed like she had pee in her diaper, so I went to change her all by myself, and this nurse screamed at me from across the room when she was working with another preemie. What are you doing? Don't touch her. Put that back. Exactly like that. And I was just like, and I was super mad. So I had to like take a few minutes just to like, like USA because so I didn't say anything off the jump, but and she came over and she was like, I need to check her iron levels and record her temperature and do this. You cannot touch her right now. And I was like, listen, I understand that you have your procedure of the way that you do things, but I have been here multiple times before and I know that I'm allowed to change her and I'm allowed to do these things. So if you had something that you needed to do with her, all you needed to do was tell me. You didn't need to disrespect me. And she just kind of was like, whatever. I didn't disrespect you, or whatever comment she made. And she stormed away, and I was just like, okay, well, now I'm going to change you, Anaya. So that's kind of how that went. And after that confrontation, whatever you want to call it, she was actually the nurse that was there on the day Anaya got discharged. So she was super nice to me after that. We actually got along just fine. But it's just like, is it because I was a young mom? Did she think like she could talk to me however she wanted to? Like I don't know. And
Well,
I
what's
don't know if
funny is I don't even know if it's that because, yes, they may talk down, but they're not used to having any women talk back.
yeah.
And you talk back a whole lot.
I'm just thinking to myself like
You
I'm her
are
mother.
yourself and you're
What do you
you
mean?
are the mom. And you let
Mother's
them
power and
know it.
influence. There
That's
you
right.
go. That's why I titled this that Mother's Power and Influence, because like you said, not a lot of people do speak up, and they worry like Shane used to tell me, why are you talking to them that way? What if they treat her different when you're not around? And I was like, let them, please. I would love to see them try. Like I wasn't worried about anything like that. What I was thinking was, I'm her mom regardless of the circumstances, and I'm paying you essentially to take care of her, like it's a service that I'm paying for. So I do have a say, but aside from just being her mother, you know? And I feel like lots of women need to find like that inner roar and just say, "Hey, this is what I want." Even in birth, this can relate to anything. I don't like my legs that way. I want to put them this way. This is how I want to do it. Or it could be pregnancy. Communicate. Let people know. And you'll see that the whole experience is just different. It really is. And now that I'm pregnant right now and I'm about to experience round 2 in a few months, I know I'm just going to say exactly what I want the whole time, because it worked well for me, but there was a lot of obstacles that was like straining. It was like they tried to take my hope away too. Like Anaya was one of the few preemies, as they say, like sometimes they can do really good and then like backtrack a little bit and then do good and backtrack a little bit, but she progressively every single day accomplished something and didn't have any like backtracks besides the time they gave her formula and she became jaundice. Like, she went from the pressurized air tube to the lower pressurized air tube to just the flow, not the like every day it was something. And they always told me, well, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up because this happens all the time. She might just revert back tomorrow. And I would just be like, okay, like, but she's not, And it was just like, oh, well, even though she's doing good, it doesn't mean that she can go home because we like to keep them until their due date to make sure. And it was always like, I felt like once she did something, there was always something else she had to do. Like, okay, she's doing this. This is what she's doing. Why does it have to be like, well, she's doing this, but she's not doing this, and she's not doing that, and she's not doing this? So it was kind of it was a hard time, but we got through it. And she came home, and now she's 15 months, perfectly healthy, running around. But my message in my story is just that of, you know, things don't always turn out the way that you think they will, but mother's power and influence as a mom, as a woman, as a doula, as a midwife, as whatever, a lactation specialist, whatever you are, there's power and influence in what you do. And you might not even notice or see it until you actually sit there and say something. And then it's like, whoa, I did that. Look what I did. Like, me speaking up for myself made changes. And even if they were little changes, it still was a change that wouldn't have happened if I didn't. And then it was like, wow, like, I really do have like this power, like I'm her mom. I can make things happen. Like, my mom's told me too, which is true. Like, you give birth to a child, but then you also are reborn as a mother. So it's like two births, and it's true. Because since Anaya, I've just kind of found my voice a lot more in situations. And I hope that other people find their voice too, because everybody has one. Even the shyest, most quiet person, they have it in there. You just gotta bring it out. Like, that's it was I don't know, but that was my story, and I'm excited to have another one now, another story, and I hope that I can influence people or maybe just wake something up inside. Like, hey, this happened to me one time, and maybe I should have said this. I'm gonna say this next time. See what happens. With this whole COVID situation happening now and things being so different, that's another thing that kind of makes me a little worried because your support system, like you said earlier, like you need that, especially in the moment of the whole process, not just birth, but pregnancy,
Mm.
birth, after birth,
Girl,
everything. You
I
you
was
need that.
sending you messages. I was on the phone with your mama as we were dropping through wormholes to get to the Hudson Valley Hospital. Well, she was. I was on the phone, but we were time traveling. I swear that woman got there in record time. Let me tell you,
Right in time. I
it was
know.
like the time this baby was crowning. And literally, I'm on the phone. The car is still moving. Juju is doing the rolling tumble out the
Out
car,
the car.
into the emergency room doorway. It's like a stunt woman.
See, I didn't see all that. I heard about it later. All I saw was, I'm here. I'm here. I see her head. Like, and then she also, like, as a doula, I know some women have said this like in previous talks before, but it's not just the doula's job to take care of the pregnant mother or the new mother or the baby. Like, the other people that are involved, the support system, the doula nurtures them too, because my mom was the only one who noticed that Shane was on the verge of passing out. He was fully like clothed in like a sweater, and sweats and everything, and she said he was dripping with sweat just, like, out of it, and the doctors and nurses did not like, nobody was talking to him, like I said earlier. He did a great job, but nobody said anything to him, and my mom was like, "Take off your sweater. Sit down, like, you're okay," like, like, it was a whole process that kind of just came together as one piece, like, every person had this role. Even the people who I say gave me, like, a difficult time or who didn't do something still played a role because it's like, well, that's the difference. That's the difference that a doula can make, or that somebody coming in and just saying something to you about I can if I guarantee if one of the nurses or doctors or Shane or somebody said, "I can see her head. It's right there." That would have given me like all the energy just to be like, "Okay, let's get this." I'm over here thinking she's all the way up here, like, I don't know. I got all these pushes to go. You keep telling me one more. And it is a surge of energy. It really is because I'm like my mom says and I say too, like I'm not religious by the book, but I do believe in a divine. There's someone, something that has the balance of good and evil and energy and life and all of that stuff. And I can say, especially because I was kind of fasting in a sense afterwards, that connection, that link was so direct, like the most direct I've ever felt. And it didn't come to me like somebody talking to me like how I talk to you. It came to me as my own inner thought as myself. You know that thought that you get in your head
Your
that's
own
like maybe
inner
I should
voice,
do this.
your own inner power warrior.
Yeah. It was like, you need to be with her every day. Do not leave that hospital. Stay right there. She needs breast milk. It was just like a direct, like, this is what I need to do. There
Couldn't
was
nobody
no
tell you
question.
nothing.
Yes, there was no doubt, no question, no what if. That's why I wasn't concerned about me. I didn't realize how bad I looked until I saw the pictures later on. I was like, oh, could have used some water or something.
Somebody
I
needed
don't
a pork chop.
know. Like, I wasn't even worried about what happens to me. I was like, this baby is going to make it. And I had so many negative influences around me telling me like, well, she might not, and she might not come home, and she could have problems, and even after, even now, to this day, she's the preemie baby, but she's not. She's Anaya. That's who she is. She's not the preemie baby. She goes to daycare. I work at a daycare, and they do these like monthly assessments. And when I tell you the number of times that they tried to tell me something was wrong with her because she was a preemie, and I was just like, she's fine. And she has gone beyond and beyond surpassing milestones, and just she came right when she felt she was ready to come, and she fought to be here, and so she is. She has no complications, no problems, even though a whole bunch of people would love to tell you that it's bound to happen. It's bound to
I wonder
happen.
why that baby came early. She was excited to meet this lady right here.
I think it was the baby shower presents. My baby shower was the day before, so I think she was like, "Ooh, I want to use this stuff." I had contractions at 5 o'clock in the morning, the day after my baby shower, and I just didn't know they were contractions at the time. Just like, what is this? Huh? I'm gonna go back to sleep. And I wanted to like backtrack a whole lot and talk about how while I was waiting for that 6 hours in the hospital, even then I had nurses and doctors and people brushing it off, and I'm like, I'm timing them, like I'm doing everything right. I'm like, I know these are contractions, and they're trying to tell me, oh, well, maybe you're dehydrated. You could be Braxton Hicks. You could, so one of the nurses told me, oh, maybe you just have the stomach bug. The stomach bug? Seriously? Do you not think I know the difference between stomach bug and contractions? Like, those are two very different things. And we did ultrasounds and all this stuff just to prove that I did not know what I was talking about. I wasn't going into labor, but I was, and that's another thing where it comes into like doubting yourself. Cuz there were a few times where I was like, maybe I'm not having the baby. Before I even went to the hospital, I was like, I don't know. I think I'm in labor, but I don't want to go to the hospital and get everyone all worked up. And then it's just false labor. Like I'm not really having the baby. And that's something that we kind of need to learn to like trust ourselves and be like, no, this is what I initially thought, and this is what I'm going with. It's okay to be wrong sometimes too. A lot of people are afraid to say no, to speak up, and to be wrong. But it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say no. That's something that everybody goes through. Like, so yeah.
Kai,
Sorry, I
you
just
got
had like a.
Kai, you got questions? Because baby said a lot.
I know, right? I'm thinking about how much I'm afraid to say no and afraid to be wrong right now, like in my life, like let alone with something as, as critical and as vital as a pregnancy. So I commend you for your bravery. It's just, you are simply amazing
Thank
and an
you.
inspiration.
Yeah. Um,
You're most welcome. And we got a comment here for
my
you too.
mommy. Love you, mom. Shout out to my mom.
Shout out to Juju.
I was watching earlier and I noticed one of the topics was like being afraid of being judged by other people, and I think that plays a role in being afraid to speak up and say no and all of the important things that we as people just even it doesn't matter what age you are. It's just a spiritual thing. Like when you're spiritually ready, you find something that happens to you, whether for me having a Naya or whatever your calling is, and it's just like, oh, okay. And even now, like I still have these buffer moments where I'm like, should I say something? I don't really like the way that that lady, talked to Anaya, but should I? Or, I'm scared that if I say this, somebody's going to think that I'm that. But that I feel is just like a natural thing that happens, a natural thought process. And it's more of like not saying, I don't want to be afraid, but what are you going to do when those thoughts come? Because you're in control of what you do. So you can get those thoughts and say, well, maybe I shouldn't. And then you can gather yourself and say, well, this is how I feel and this is who I am. So I am just going to stand up for myself regardless of that fear that's holding me back from saying no or saying I don't like the way that you talk to me. And it took me far. It really did. I'm sure they discharged Anaya 2 weeks in one day because they were like, we don't want to deal with this crazy lady anymore. She always got something to say. You take care of her. We're not doing it the right way, apparently. uh, and there's been so many times. Even I feel like this learning process is so much further than just birth and hospitalizations, and even now as 15 months and some days I still come across that stigma of like, well, you're just a young mom, you don't really know what you're doing. People coming in while I'm doing my motherhood, learning how I want to be a mom from 3 months old to 15 months still. You shouldn't be giving her that. Do you really want to do that with her? You shouldn't hold her all the time. She's going to be a clingy baby. All these things that people just kind of project onto you that kind of makes you feel like, well, should I be doing that? I don't know. But everyone has their own journey. And you learn from everything, the negative, the positive, all of that. It all comes to one and it teaches you something about yourself. And I've learned a lot about myself. So I hope that others can too from this.
100%.
I was sort of there, and I still learned a lot.
I mean, everything is a learning experience. It doesn't matter how old you are. Everything you go through is something that you can take from it. It's either this is who I am or this is not who I am. You know? Mistakes too. You can't be I've made some mistakes with Anaya. I mean, obviously, being a first time young mom, I mean, people who have 3 kids make mistakes. So I've made some mistakes, and I'm just like, okay, well, that happened. Now I know that's not what you do. So moving forward, this is what I'm going to do now. We have a big family on both sides, Shane's side, my side. So I have had a lot this is my first own apartment I'm living in with her where I can kind of do my mom thing by myself. But before that, I had so many like experienced mothers who I appreciate the unsolicited advice, but it is unsolicited advice. So like just kind of come in and disrupt that balance me and Anaya had going together where it's just like, really? Like, seriously, right now? You're trying to put her to sleep my way. And they're like, you shouldn't hold her, put her down and come and put her down. And I'm just like, don't do that. Don't do that. And it's kind of like a thin line between like trying not to offend somebody because I know they mean well. But at the same time, I need to be like, you had your chance. This is mine.
Ah-ho, baby.
Yeah. Wow.
So, ready to take us out, Mama? That was amazing.
Thank you.
I know Kylie's trying to process, so let's just all take a breath and let's breathe on that, because that was a lot. And I'm just in awe of how you have so much clarity about your experience. And that is my wish for birthing families everywhere, is that they have as much clarity as you have in just the birthing experience of, I have rights. My child has rights. And this child belongs to me. And I'm the one that's going to take this child home one way or the other. So she's going home on my terms.
Yeah.
She going to get home on my terms. So
Yeah.
I really love that. Kai, you want to close us out? Because as usual, the hour is never enough.
100%. And I'm always filled with gratitude, but especially for you, Yuvelca, for just like literally putting me in a mindset of like just unbelievable gratitude and to be in the presence of your power and strength and what it is that you bring to the world. It gives me so much hope, so much inspiration. And your mom being here, like if I was your mom, I would be so proud too.
Thank you. Thank you. It was empowering to share that. It really was.
I tell all moms, share their story, because that's exactly it. You know what went down. You know how it went down. And being gaslighted sucks.
Oh, yeah.
You know what you saw, you know what you experienced. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud because, again, this is what community looks like. We got together, we all shared things together, and we're going to take this even further now. But look at what we have. We have this beautiful, we're 3 generations now.
Mm-hmm. 3 generations, yeah.
And in birth work, and that's what's missing, is families taking care of each other, but especially on our mother line.
Well, it was a pleasure being able to hopefully enlighten some people, share my story, let them know, just some people might have gone through similar things. somebody might know someone who's been through something similar, and I hope that they now have some type of tool or just backstory to go off of and say, you know, this is how I can help. This is what I can do.
Beautiful. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone here watching. I appreciate all of you. And I want to wish everyone a good night. Thank you for hanging in there with us all day. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:11 a.m. So have a great night, everyone.
Good
Take
night.
Bye.
care.
See you tomorrow, 9/11.